What if the most productive food plants on Earth were not giant orchards filled with towering trees, but tiny plants, growing silently only inches above the ground? For decades, most people were taught to associate abundance with large farms, endless land, and fruit trees that take years to mature. But hidden inside old survival gardens, forgotten family homesteads, and ancient farming traditions was a completely different reality. Some of the smallest plants in the world can produce astonishing amounts of food in very little space, faster, more often, and sometimes more reliably than entire fruit trees. This changes everything. Long before supermarkets existed, families depended on compact crops that could continuously regenerate harvests throughout the year. Ancient growers understood something modern society slowly forgot. Survival was not always about size, it was about consistency. A massive fruit tree might only harvest once a season, but certain small plants can keep producing week after week, sometimes every single day. And modern science is finally confirming what old gardeners already knew. Many compact crops produce more calories, vitamins, and usable food per square foot than traditional orchard systems. Some improve soil health while growing, others climb vertically, turning tiny spaces into living food factories. A few are so productive that gardeners struggle to keep up with the harvest. Few people still know this, but one of the plants later in this story became so valuable during food shortages that families secretly protected its seeds across generations. And another, near the end, can continue producing so aggressively that a single small row can feed an entire household for months. That was never supposed to be forgotten. Today we'll uncover 10 tiny plants that quietly outperform fruit trees in ways most people never imagined. Some grow in containers, some survive difficult climates, some look ordinary while hiding unbelievable productivity. And once you understand how these plants really work, you may never look at gardening the same way again. Topic 1. Strawberries. Imagine walking outside in the morning and finding bright red fruit waiting only inches from the soil. That is exactly why strawberries became one of the most treasured garden plants in history. While fruit trees demand years of patience before producing meaningful harvests, strawberries can begin rewarding growers almost immediately, spreading rapidly and multiplying with surprising speed. Small, but powerful. Ancient European gardeners cultivated strawberries, not just for flavor but for survival. Their ability to spread through runners allowed families to expand food production without constantly buying new seeds. One small patch could quietly become an entire bed of fruit within a single season. In medieval villages, strawberries were often planted near homes because they produced dependable harvests in tight spaces where trees simply could not fit. Now imagine harvesting baskets of fruit from plants smaller than your shoes. Most people never realize how productive these tiny plants can become. And if you're enjoying discovering these forgotten growing secrets, make sure to follow the channel and leave a comment telling us which plant you would grow first. Modern growers now understand why strawberries are so efficient. Instead of investing energy into massive trunks and branches like fruit trees do, strawberry plants direct most of their resources into rapid fruit production. The result is a compact plant capable of producing enormous yields relative to its size. And the benefits go far beyond sweetness. Strawberries contain antioxidants, vitamin C, and natural compounds linked to heart health and reduced inflammation. But what truly shocked many survival gardeners was how easily these plants adapted to containers, raised beds, and vertical systems. Few people realize this. A single healthy strawberry bed can continue multiplying for years with minimal maintenance. Even beginners often harvest more fruit than expected because the plants continuously create new growth points. In uncertain times, that kind of renewable food system becomes incredibly valuable. But the next plant takes productivity to an entirely different level. Topic 2. Blueberries. At first glance, blueberries seem too delicate to be powerful producers. Their tiny berries and soft appearance hide something extraordinary. Once established, blueberry bushes can generate harvests for decades while requiring surprisingly little space compared to traditional fruit trees. This was quietly underestimated. Native communities across North America valued blueberries long before modern agriculture recognized their importance. Dried blueberries became survival food during long winters because they stored nutrients remarkably well. Entire families relied on these small berries for energy, preservation, and medicine. Unlike large fruit trees that often struggle with disease and unstable harvest cycles, blueberries can produce consistently for years when grown in the right conditions. Modern science has also revealed why these berries became legendary among health researchers. They are packed with compounds linked to brain function, memory support, and cellular protection. But the real secret lies underground. Blueberries form specialized root relationships with soil organisms that help them absorb nutrients efficiently. This natural partnership allows them to thrive in places where larger fruit trees may fail. And because the plants remain relatively compact, gardeners can grow multiple bushes in the same area required for a single tree. Some gardeners harvest pounds upon pounds of berries from spaces smaller than a parking spot. That level of efficiency once made blueberries priceless in remote settlements, and yet the next plant grows even more aggressively. Topic 3. Blackberries. Before modern fencing existed, blackberries often grew wild along the edges of forests like natural walls of food. To most people, they looked untamed, but ancient growers saw something completely different, a nearly unstoppable source of nutrition. This changes everything. Blackberry vines can spread rapidly, climb structures, and produce heavy clusters of fruit with astonishing consistency. Unlike fragile orchard systems that require years of maintenance, blackberry canes regenerate continuously. Even after harsh winters or damage, many varieties return stronger than before. In old farming communities, blackberries were considered emergency food plants because they produced so heavily during peak season. Families preserved them into jams, syrups, and dried stores that lasted through difficult months. Modern researchers later discovered that blackberries contain high concentrations of fiber, vitamin C, and plant compounds associated with immune support. But perhaps the most impressive feature is their productivity per square foot. Vertical blackberry systems can transform narrow spaces into dense food-producing walls. Few people still know this. Some varieties produce fruit on second-year canes, while simultaneously preparing next season's growth, creating a cycle of almost continuous renewal. In survival gardening, resilience matters more than appearance, and blackberries may be one of the toughest small producers ever cultivated. But the next plant shocked modern gardeners even more. Topic 4. Cherry tomatoes. Picture a single vine overflowing with hundreds of glowing red fruits for months without stopping. That is the strange power of cherry tomatoes. While large fruit trees may harvest once a year, cherry tomato plants can produce continuously until frost arrives. Endless harvests. Ancient civilizations in Central and South America cultivated early tomato varieties centuries before the rest of the world understood their value. Over time, growers discovered that smaller tomato varieties often produced faster and more aggressively than larger ones. Modern science explains why. Cherry tomatoes mature quickly, redirect energy efficiently, and continuously flower throughout the season. One healthy plant can generate massive quantities of food from a tiny root system, and their nutritional profile is surprisingly powerful. They contain lycopene, vitamin C, potassium, and antioxidants connected to heart health and cellular protection. Now pause for a second. Most fruit trees require ladders, pruning systems, years of waiting, and significant space. But cherry tomatoes can grow in buckets, balconies, hanging containers, and compact backyard gardens, while still producing astonishing harvests. Some gardeners report harvesting bowls of tomatoes daily from only a few plants. During food shortages, this level of productivity becomes incredibly important, and somehow the next plant grows even faster. Topic 5. Pole beans. Few plants demonstrate the power of vertical growing better than pole beans. Instead of spreading outward and consuming massive amounts of land, these vines climb upward like living ladders, transforming tiny spaces into towers of food. This was never supposed to be forgotten. Ancient indigenous farming systems often paired climbing beans with corn in highly efficient growing methods that modern gardeners still admire today. The beans climb naturally while enriching the soil with nitrogen, creating a powerful partnership that increased productivity without synthetic fertilizers. Modern agriculture later confirmed the science behind this ancient wisdom. Pole beans improve soil fertility while producing heavy harvests repeatedly throughout the growing season. Unlike bush varieties that finish quickly, pole beans can continue producing for months, and their nutritional value is remarkable. They provide fiber, protein, minerals, and energy, while remaining easy to preserve through drying. Doctors ignored this for decades. Some survival gardeners consider pole beans one of the most important emergency food crops ever grown because of their combination of productivity, storage potential, and regenerative growth. A single trellis can support dozens upon dozens of pods at once, creating food density that many fruit trees cannot match. But the next plant was once valued almost like medicine. Topic 6. Kale. What kind of plant survives freezing temperatures, keeps producing after repeated harvesting, and becomes sweeter after frost? Kale almost sounds unnatural when you understand what it can do. Small plant, massive resilience. For centuries, kale fed populations across Europe during harsh winters when many other crops failed completely. Long before refrigeration existed, families depended on hardy greens capable of surviving brutal conditions. Modern science later revealed why kale earned its reputation. It contains extraordinary levels of vitamins A, C, and K, alongside powerful antioxidants and minerals. Some nutrition researchers even call it one of the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth. But its real secret is regenerative harvesting. Instead of removing the entire plant, growers can continuously harvest outer leaves while the center keeps producing new growth. This creates an almost ongoing food cycle from a single plant. Few people realize this. Some kale plants survive multiple seasons under the right conditions, quietly producing food long after delicate crops disappear. And yet the next plant once played a major role in feeding armies. Topic 7. Peas. Before canned food existed, peas became one of humanity's quiet survival tools. Small, compact, and incredibly efficient, pea plants transformed limited land into dependable nutrition. This changes everything. Ancient civilizations valued peas because they matured quickly and stored well when dried. During difficult seasons, dried peas became essential survival food across Europe and Asia. Modern science explains why peas are so valuable. They combine plant protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals inside tiny pods produced by climbing vines that require minimal space. But there is another hidden advantage. Like beans, peas improve soil quality by fixing nitrogen naturally. That means they not only feed people, they feed the earth itself. In compact gardens, vertical pea systems can generate surprising harvests while occupying only narrow growing areas. Some gardeners harvest bucket after bucket from tiny rows. Before we continue, remember something important. The closer we move toward the final plants, the more extreme the productivity becomes, and the next one may be among the most aggressive producers of all. Topic 8. Cucumbers. Imagine planting a single vine and watching it explode into non-stop production within weeks. Cucumbers grow with astonishing speed, often climbing trellises so rapidly that gardeners struggle to keep them contained. This is where things get strange. Ancient growers cultivated cucumbers for hydration as much as nutrition. In hot climates, their high water content became incredibly valuable during long summers. Modern cultivation revealed something even more impressive. Vertical cucumber systems can produce enormous harvests in compact spaces while improving airflow and reducing disease risks. And cucumbers rarely stop at just a few fruits. Healthy vines can produce continuously throughout the season, especially when harvested regularly. Few people still know this. Frequent harvesting actually encourages even more production. The plant responds almost like a machine designed for constant output. Some gardeners harvest so many cucumbers that preservation becomes necessary within days. Pickling traditions across the world were born partly because these vines produced more food than families could immediately consume. But the next plant may be the fastest producer on this entire list. Topic 9. The lettuce. Most people see lettuce as ordinary. That may be its greatest disguise. Fast, silent, relentless. Unlike fruit trees that demand years before meaningful harvests, lettuce can mature in just a few weeks. Ancient civilizations understood the value of leafy greens long before modern agriculture existed. In difficult times, families planted lettuce close to their homes because fast-growing crops meant dependable food when survival became uncertain. And that small detail changed everything. While massive orchards required land, patience, and stability, lettuce quietly became one of the fastest renewable food sources available to ordinary people. In many old villages, leafy greens were harvested almost daily because they regenerated faster than most crops people relied on. Modern growers later discovered something extraordinary about cut-and-come-again harvesting. Instead of removing the entire plant, gardeners trim only the outer leaves, while the center continues producing fresh growth over and over again. One small row can provide repeated harvests for weeks with very little effort. Few people truly realize how efficient this is, and lettuce is far more adaptable than most imagine. Some varieties tolerate heat, others survive cold temperatures surprisingly well. Certain types thrive in containers, vertical gardens, shaded patios, and tiny backyard systems where fruit trees could never survive. For survival gardeners, speed matters more than perfection, and lettuce may be one of the fastest edible plants on Earth. Some varieties go from seed to harvest in less than 30 days, transforming tiny spaces into continuous sources of fresh food. That level of efficiency once made leafy greens essential during wartime victory gardens and emergency food systems across the world. When food shortages appeared, fast-growing crops like lettuce became symbols of resilience and self-sufficiency. Now, before we reach the final plant on this list, thank you for staying with us through this journey. If these forgotten growing secrets surprised you even a little, make sure to follow the channel and share this video with someone who loves gardening, survival knowledge, or natural living. You never know who might need this information one day, because what comes next may be the most shocking plant of all. The final plant hides its true power underground, and its productivity stunned entire civilizations. Topic 10. Beets beneath the soil. Something extraordinary is happening. While many crops only provide one edible harvest, beets produce two, nutrient-rich roots below ground and edible greens above it. Nothing gets wasted. Ancient cultures treasured beets for their ability to store well through winter while delivering dense nutrition during difficult seasons. In some regions, beet storage became a cornerstone of survival agriculture. Modern science later uncovered why these roots became so respected. Beets contain nitrates linked to circulation and endurance, along with fiber, minerals, and antioxidants. But the real power of beets is efficiency. They grow quickly, tolerate cooler temperatures, and maximize food production in limited spaces. Even their leaves remain edible, turning a single crop into multiple sources of nutrition. This was once more valuable than gold. During times of scarcity, root crops like beets often determined whether families survived harsh winters, and unlike fragile fruit trees, these compact plants delivered harvests within a single growing season. Now look back at everything you've seen. Tiny plants, minimal space, massive production, ancient knowledge quietly rediscovered. Maybe true abundance was never hidden inside giant orchards. Maybe it was growing close to the ground all along. And perhaps the biggest secret is this: the future of food may look much smaller than anyone expected. If this story surprised you, leave a comment sharing which plant shocked you the most and which one you would grow first.